Certainly our well wishes to you and your families. I know many of us have people spread across not just the state of Florida, but I know for myself during the hurricane, I even had someone from Charleston, South Carolina in my house, and after they left, the hurricane was literally ahead of them heading to exactly where they were going. So this is certainly something that touched a lot of people, so we're very happy that you're here this evening. We're going to turn it over to our wonderful host, Jeremy, here. He's going to share with you a little bit about this beautiful building and the wonderful things that they do here. We really appreciate them hosting us. They are so great. They give us this space for free as a nonprofit, so let's just give them a round of applause and thank them.
Hi, my name is Jeremy Garibaldi. Welcome into the Center for Health and Wellbeing. If this is your first time here, we're happy to have you here. If this is not, welcome back in. The Center for Health and Wellbeing is the way I kind of like to describe it. It's kind of like a mall for health and wellbeing. So we're half owned by Advent Health and half owned by the nonprofit Winter Park Health Foundation. And so the idea is you go, stop by your doctor, and they say, hey, you need to get more exercise. Well, you walk all the way down to Crosby Wellness Center, which is down there. We even have free guest passes over at the Ideas Desk if you want to go ahead and check that out as well. And the idea is you work out and you come out, and then you do realize, I'm a little hungry. So you go to the Nourish Coffee Bar and Kitchen, which is open from 8 to 3 on the weekdays. And then you realize, I really want to get into fall vegetable gardening, which is some of the classes that we have here at the Center for Health and Wellbeing. Our idea is sort of to accompany that fitness and wholeness is not just physical and mental. There's also spiritual, there's also vocational, and there's also lovely spaces like this that help health and mind. So if you have any questions about the space, please, you can see us at the welcome desk, and we'll happy to talk you through about any of the other programs we have here and all of the other things we offer here as well. So thank you for being here.
Thank you so much. Okay, well, as I always like to say, if you don't know where you are right now, you're at the Hive. So thank you for being here. We have been holding this program since February of 2013. So it is amazing. Every single month we've been bringing people together to essentially engage in a think and do tank about the environment. And it has been an extraordinary journey. We've now done Hive meetings all around the world. I was just in West Africa for 2 weeks in both Liberia and Guinea. We held 10 Hive meetings between both Liberia and Guinea in the time that we were there, collecting thousands of data points, talking to over 3,000 people, engaging with them in communities just like yourselves. This is a model that has the ability to go to different places, be translated into different languages, but really the goal is to come up with direct action projects that we can take in the community. So, well, this is a program of our nonprofit. In fact, the Hive is our flagship program of Ideas for Us. And Ideas for Us is a 501c3, so we're a nonprofit organization. And essentially what we do is develop ideas, fund that action, and then scale solutions that solve our most pressing problems. And sometimes these problems focus on an environmental aspect, sometimes an economic environmental aspect, sometimes a social and environmental aspect. We really see that economic, environmental, and social as being the real parts of sustainability. You can think if you were to hit the bullseye between the three of those things, you'd have a pretty good sustainable solution. So important stuff, and we have been doing this since 2008, first as a student club and then evolving into a 501c3 nonprofit in 2011. So, again, the Hive is part of a system that we've put into place to crowdsource environmental solutions at the local level. Well, why is this so important? We know we have huge, lofty global problems, but the problem is that very often one person, or even groups of people, or even whole countries can't solve global problems. So what do? Well, you break the problem down into smaller regional pieces. And a region can be as small as yourself, your own home, your dormitory, your college campus, your neighborhood, your community center, or a room like this of people who are in your community and may or may not be like-minded, but want to see good things happen in the community nevertheless. So we host the Hive, we run eco programs, and then of course those action projects are boots on the ground and advancing a whole host of areas in sustainable development. Well, back in 2011, we thought to ourselves, gee, sustainability is really complex. What do we do? How do we break this down to make sense? And, back then we were thinking to ourselves, all right, well, energy is everything, from an elemental level, from a connection level between people, from a aspect of climate change for sure. So we knew energy was one of those pillars. We then also knew that water, well, we're 90-something% water as animals, right? So very, very important. We knew that water was a major piece of the puzzle as well, and that would be included in one of the things that we took action in. Of course, water being so important and one of our most abused resources. We knew food was something that was universal, but also really personal to people, and something that had deep cultural aspects to it. And goodness, still so many people go to bed hungry in our own communities. So we have food desert issues and sustainability issues all tied around that. Then, of course, waste, a tremendous opportunity. After all, we're the only animal that produces waste, so this is certainly a human issue that ties us all together, and we knew that was an important part. And then ecology, right? We kind of think of that as the stage that life unfolds on, right? Both living and non-living actors in that, from climate and weather and all the way to all of the biodiversity, ourselves included. So these 5 pillars formed a framework for us as an organization. And it still is something that is with us today. But then the rest of the world kind of caught up to where we were. Our vice president of our board, Lee Perry back there, has a saying that ideas for us is kind of like trying to sell computers in the 80s when we first started out. We were like, listen, everybody, we know this is going to be a really big thing. Trust us. And lo and behold, fast forward in time, and it certainly is. It's hard to go a day listening to the news and not hearing about sustainability. So the rest of the world started to catch up to these things and came up with the Sustainable Development Goals. This was led by the United Nations, but it was actually groups of thousands of players that came together for this, from academic institutions, cities, individual experts, religious entities and organizations, people from all walks of life, not just academics and people who are, decision makers at the United Nations or World Bank or these types of things. It was a very grassroots effort, and we were fortunate to get to partake in a lot of that thinking from when it was first proposed in 2012 to the Paris Accord when these goals were adopted. But the idea is, could we hit these goals by 2030? For the world. And it's not just 17 goals, there's also 169 targets, 253 indicators that unfold from this, and things are being actually added all the time to refine it. Well, unfortunately, the answer right now is no. No country on earth right now in 2022 is prepared to hit these goals by 2030. But there is a whole lot of hope and a whole lot of work that has to be done. So much, in fact, this has been called the decade of action, the 2020s, for us to advance climate as much as we can. Well, of course, the why behind this work, why do we do this? Well, there's a lot of reasons. Some of them are very personal, some of them are very obvious. We're trying to save the planet. And I think that is not just noble, but also something that enriches the lives of everyone who's involved in this organization, right? People want a purpose. They want something to strive for that's bigger than themselves. They want to make great friendships from that and meet people that they otherwise wouldn't meet. So I really invite you all to get to know one another, and we'll have some opportunities for that in this room. You never know. Many of us have made lifelong friends through this organization. So, of course, the why behind this, besides the saving the planet and giving ourselves this wonderful cultural experience in the community, of course, is to help people. There's a tremendous amount of suffering out there in the world, and we have to do something about it. Same thing with the environment and the suffering that the environment faces. So, shameless plug, please donate. We are a 501c3 nonprofit. It's your donations that help get these projects off the ground. It's your donations that help pilot programs that wouldn't otherwise occur, and then we have data and proof to go and shake down larger entities with even more capital to be able to make them possible. We're really honored that we're supported by both companies that are multinational, local, all the way to mom and pop law firms of one person in the community. Then, of course, we are supported by many foundations local and national and international, that really care for the work that we're doing. And most recently, even the state of Florida has gotten in on seeing the value of the programs we're doing and providing funding for us to do all different types of environmental advancement. So if you haven't been on our website, please check that out, ideasforus.org, and you can navigate all around there. Of course, we are on social media as well. Now, it's kind of an interesting time for content. Before, people would complain about things being too long. Now there seems to be no ends to that, right? Someone can binge watch 10 seasons of something and it's like 1,000 hours and they don't even bat an eye. Or listen to 5-6 hours of podcasts. So if that's you and you identify with that, please check out our podcast. It is called The Official Ideas for Us Podcast. We wanted to keep it simple as far as the name goes. And we are always interviewing new people who are supporting ideas, working with us, different types of projects we'll discuss on there. Also supporters from the community, like businesses that are wanting to be sustainable, and maybe you wouldn't necessarily think that they would be. No worries, sir. And so we very much so want to showcase them and their stories. You can find our podcast almost anywhere that you can find podcasts: Spotify, Pandora, and of course Anchor.fm, which is a large hub for podcasts as well. Okay, so this is not about us up here. This is always about you all. And you'll notice that there are whiteboards at your table. We invite you to utilize those. We also have some markers for you to be able to draw and to write. Please see this as kind of a multimedia thing. Some people in the breakouts like to draw things. Some people like to write things. We appreciate artistic talent. So start figuring out who's the most artistically talented at the table for sure. But we want to give you a chance to meet one another first. So we're going to get started with an icebreaker question before we then turn it over to our speaker and then our breakout at the end of the Hive. So share a time that you noticed local businesses making a change for sustainability. Has that ever happened? Maybe it was around trends or fads that happened a few years ago. I can think of a couple. A lot of businesses jumped on the bandwagon with those kinds of things. So meet the people next to you. Let's take maybe 2 minutes, come up with some ideas. Feel free to draw, write them down, whatever, and then we're going to go around and hear from the group. Thank you so much. All right, not that I can't project, but I'll use the mic. But that was great. Thank you, everybody. I'm hearing some wonderful discussions around the room. I got caught in a discussion myself, so I'm excited to hear some feedback. One of the things we do is that we've got an awesome audiovisual team. They are streaming this online for, of course, the world to be able to see. You'll notice we're surrounded by cameras right now. There is a microphone that is right there. And if you would just be so kind, if you want to share, just head to that microphone so number one, people online can hear you, and number two, the camera is already pointed at that location. So by all means, please feel free. If you'd like to share something that your table came up with, go for it.
Publix Recycling.
All right, Publix Recycling, okay. In what way? Recycling what?
Like outside of their stores, they have those bins where you can stuff your used plastic shopping bags, and I'm guessing they recycle them.
Yep. They get turned into a lot of things. They're never going to be a plastic bag again. A lot of that plastic gets turned into kind of this high-density plastic that you often see in construction sometimes. There's this kind of new wave of playgrounds made out of it. Sometimes you see chairs and benches made out of this kind of plastic. Very often, that's the fate of your plastic bags, which isn't so bad. You know, plastic isn't endlessly recyclable, but it can turn into really sturdy stuff up against the environment. After all, plastic, the problem with it is it doesn't really biodegrade. So make things you don't want to biodegrade out of it. All right, anybody else? Please share. Maybe we'll take one more.
I personally have noticed a decline in the amount of straws like restaurants offer, which is great. So yeah, yes, less straws.
Hey Kelly, how about a reusable straw for you?
Woo!
Ooh.
Yay! Manifestation, everyone.
Yes. So this was a big one, and you know, even Ideas for Us got involved with this, and what we tried to do to help be a facilitator was to work with bars in the Wall Street area of downtown Orlando, and we wanted to help them to become straw optional. Kind of an odd thing to get politicized, but straws kind of became this hot topic for a while a few years back, and some people were saying, you know, well, you're being ableist if you just ban straws because someone needs them. And that's certainly true. There are many people who depend on straws for various things, but the majority of us, every single drink out of a straw we've ever drank in our lives, that straw is still somewhere out there. So kind of frightening to really think about. So what we wanted to do was help make these things optional and have other alternatives for people. And this is where the free market got pretty creative. I've been to restaurants where it's everything from a macaroni straw to a glass straw to a paper straw to a straw made out of recycled sugarcane waste to a straw that's made out of different kinds of palm fronds and things like that. Even calcium carbonate. Straws as well, which is really interesting. So the world has responded that way in many cases, not as trendy as it once was, but you know, I'm pretty surprised often in a good way that a lot of restaurants have paper straws or are straw optional where you have to ask for it. And that definitely cuts down on that waste. So these are trends, of course, and companies like to jump on board with fads. It helps them get attention. It helps them be relevant. It's not always a bad thing. What is bad is that if it's coming from a non-sincere place. And this is really what we kind of call greenwashing, and something that we keep our eyes peeled on with all of the partners that we work with, right? Are they sincerely trying to do something for the betterment of the planet and helping people, and also advancing different kinds of maybe localized jobs for creating these solutions? Or are they trying to just ride a trend? Something I invite everyone to consider. So I'm really excited tonight because the Ideas family is going through a growth period right now, which is really great. We're doing a lot of exciting new projects across the state, and it's a real honor to have a staff member of ours as the speaker tonight. And she is actually the newest official staff of our team, and she's already jumped in it to win it already with both hands just in the last few days. And of course, as a volunteer beforehand, we're so fortunate as an organization that literally all of our staff began as volunteers in some capacity before joining the team. So, of course, we really, really, really appreciate that, myself included. So I'm so excited to introduce Nicole Smith, here representing the Surfrider Foundation Orlando chapter today. And let's give her a round of applause and welcome her. So there's that. The clicker is right there.
Cool. Thank you, Clay.
Of course.
All right. Hi, everyone. Thank you for coming in today. Whoop, whoop. Hurricane Ian, right? Whoa. Well, truly, though, thank you all for being here. I know some areas, like, there is flooding and the roads are closed, and so thank you for journeying out here. It is going to be dark out, so please be careful on your way home. Okay. Oh, I did it right. All right. Surfrider. Okay. Question to start off with: has anybody outside of the Surfrider board members here ever heard of Surfrider? Yes, we got some hands. Love it, thank you. Well, Surfrider started in 1984 in Malibu, California, where a bunch of surfers were just hanging out and just being like, man, I love my life. I want to create sustainability, especially surfing or being in the water and being like immersed in this beauty of the world. And it's great because it's truly beautiful, even though hurricanes can get a little scary. But it, to this day, is still founded by a bunch of water enthusiasts, ocean lovers, and supporters to help create and keep sustainability within our oceans. We're with Surfrider, and over here I have a few of my board members, if they just want to wave. They've had long days, and we'll make them talk. Okay. So, as I try to explain to my nieces and nephews why it's really important to understand our waste, is our Earth is 79% covered by water. And of that water, we've only really explored 20% of it. So of that 20% that we have explored, we know there's 8 million metric tons of plastic in it. And that's a small amount that we do know. There's unbelievable amount that we just don't know. And so that's one thing we wanted to start looking at, like, what on your daily life are you leaving behind as waste? You know, because that waste is going to affect some cute little turtles. I mean, come on, has anybody seen that turtle video where there was a straw stuck in its nose and the people on the vessel were trying to retrieve it and they were trying to be kind to the turtle to do the best they can, but really that was a very big, long straw that was impacting that turtle. And it's crazy. Like, I cried hysterically watching that video. I truly did. But it just makes you really think, like, is it really worth it when I sit down at a restaurant that I need to have a straw? And if I do need to have a straw, okay, well, if I know I need it, I'm going to need it forever. So I should get a reusable one and take it with me when I go places. And if you're that person who does love to stop to get coffee or a drink and you do love drive-through, that's okay. In your pocket of your door, there's a good spot where you can store about 5 or 6 reusable straws you can use throughout the week. That's what I do. So we really want to think about, you know, the turtles and all the other marine life that we are affecting. Also, like us too, when we're on a beach and we're having that beautiful sunset and you're like, this is gorgeous. And then you step on a piece of broken glass or some plastic that's stuck in there. Or for me, the most annoying is seeing all the Wawa styrofoam cups stuck in the shoreline. Like, oh, come on. Like, Wawa, getting at Wawa would be a different one. That's a different topic. Love you, Wawa, though. You're amazing. Thank you. But we really got to start thinking about how we affect ourselves and other species we are all trying to coexist on this planet and live in harmony. So we really want to just think about our waste a little bit more. And that's really all I'm just asking today is think about what you're leaving behind. Do you want it to quickly disintegrate and go away? Or is it going to be like that picture on Facebook from 2002 and you're like, how is that it's still around? Like, how do these security settings he's opening? What? Like, let's let things eliminate. All right, and we are in a climate crisis, and especially we just got hit by a hurricane here that caused massive flooding all around the state and damage, and bless all the souls that have been affected by that we feel for you, we're sorry, and we're here praying for everyone that they all get through this, because it is tough times, but as humans, we do evolve and we move forward. And you think about how hurricanes are affecting us, but the waste that we see left over after a hurricane. It's not just roofing and shingles and trees, it's also what we had in our bedrooms, in our garages, and you see a lot of waste, and it's a lot of human waste that is left behind. We're talking about on the news how the floodings are affecting the humans, which is cool, but how is it affecting our marine ecosystems? How is it affecting our coastal fisheries? How is it affecting our coral reefs? These are also things we need to think about too, because all of our waste is going to get stuck in the coral reefs. Like, who's ever been to the Florida Keys? Right? Gorgeous area. We all love to snorkel, go fishing, go on the boat, sit on the beach, sit on the rocks. It's gorgeous, and we would love to continue to go. We need to preserve more of the Florida Keys in many ways. And that was one thing. I spent 14 days camping down in the Florida Keys on Big Pine. It was gorgeous, and I was snorkeling around. It was, I found some lobsters, and I was like, hey, dude, you're cool. Like, swimming around. Finding face masks stuck in the coral reefs, and finding plastic bags from stores, and you're just like, this, mainly the face mask though, that was new and a little bit harm, but it's because of COVID pushed us into boundaries that we really didn't need to cross, but I understand we needed to because it was a pandemic, but quickly a lot of plastic waste was produced because of it. So we really need to think more about, okay, today, what am I leaving behind? Because there's a lot of plastic now. And unfortunately, that plastic breaks down into little microbes, and it's ending up everywhere. And I believe at one of our swap shops, and I was learning about how it's in your tea bag. So it's good to have loose leaf tea. And I never thought of, I drink tea all the time. I have microplastics in my teas. I was like, okay. Did not know that, but it was something that was wonderful of learning. And that's one thing, is talking within your community and educating yourself on your products that you are investing in and you are buying, because in the end, it is your waste that you are going to leave behind. So you want to be more sustainable with your purchases, because you don't want to eat it. I mean, your food's wrapped in it, and some of them are leaking toxic chemicals into your food. It's like, is that burger really worth it? Sometimes it's good, but is it really worth it in the long run? It's not. Fresh venison or a fresh bison burger straight off the farm, knowing the farmer, and even, participating in their farm, and you get that little satisfaction, a little bit more of eating something. Okay, so the impacts of plastics. And these numbers for the plastics keep changing every year, especially since 2020. It exponentially changed how much plastics are ending up into the oceans. So it's kind of hard to get actual statistical data. But if you think about all these microplastics that are breaking down in the deep oceans, you kind of they only pick up what they have on top. What is going down to the seafloor bottom? How is that affecting those marine organisms down there? How is it affecting our food chain? So it's something to think about for sure. Because there are alternatives, especially to our single-use plastics. Raise of hands of how many people use DoorDash, Uber Eats, Grubhub, a food delivery service or food maker service for you. Raise of hands how many people use them. I do. We use them. They're out there. It's okay. We just want to try to push them a little bit, or give them a little more incentives to use some more sustainable products for our environment. Because if not, on these hurricane instances, they're what's going to end up in our streetways, in our roadways, in our waterways. It's what's going to be breaking down. So we just want to think a little bit more of okay, well, I do love this restaurant. And they do a lot of really good practices to be ocean friendly and good for the earth. But there's a few areas that they could probably work on. Probably just talk with them. They'd love to find out. And that's what we're here for at Surfrider. We want to be that step into the restaurants to say, hey, this world's tough. Teamwork makes the dream work. What do you need help with? What can I help you with? This is a great program, and we're offering it to you for free to help your business become more sustainable so that you can survive, for your children and grandchildren and however many generations, if you wish to carry on, or if you want to just make a bunch of food and sell all your stuff and move to Thailand, you live in a little hut. That'd be nice. But, there's our alternatives. I just went on a tangent, sorry. And ocean-friendly restaurants, it's a wonderful program, too. It was started in 2014. Yeah, 2014 in Huntington Beach. Started in Huntington Beach and then spread out to along the coast of California, Oregon and then Hawaii, and then by 2018, it went national. And it's a program where before it used to be a fee to pay into, but now we do it on a service where we're just like, no, we just want to help you be sustainable. We want your business to be ocean friendly so we can all enjoy the oceans and we can see less waste. Like, we want to be here to help it. Teamwork makes the dream work. And most people are questioning, like, oh, I'm going to spend so much money if I do that, though. Is it really worth it? What do I buy? Especially nowadays, you can actually find there are lots of products out there. There's so many products out there. I couldn't even list like some of them because I was just like, there's just too many of them out there. But there's great because are there any local businesses in the room that are considered sustainable businesses, eco-friendly? We got one. There we go. Applause to you. Thank you. We have businesses in our communities that have products to help you switch over to. It's not just in our restaurants. Like, we want to support all the communities and your events and your farmers markets and your Jack Johnson concerts or events around town. You know, you got to think about everywhere, but you got to be careful. We're lucky here in Orlando. We have O-Town Compost, great company who's making really good initiatives in working with you know, they even tell you which products, like, you know, this is not compostable. I wouldn't use this for your wedding event or food event. And they work with you to let you know. And it's going great for them. They're doing amazing. They have an awesome subscription. And it's the more businesses they got to come on because they just picked up with Chipotle. So they are now I don't know how many stores that are working with Chipotle, but I do know O-Town Compost has. So we have those businesses here that we can support too as well. And there's a community to help push us all into sustainability. Just a few words, though, to avoid when you are going to look at buying some stuff that says it's eco-friendly. You know, your keywords are eco-friendly, bio-based, degradable, but PLA and PFAS, those two ones are in polycoated paper. They could have toxic chemicals that leach into your foods and stuff. So those are the kind of ones you really want to look out for. But in general, we all have the internet. Research your products. Know where your food's coming from and know where your materials are coming from. And if it has too many things on the ingredients, you know it's not good. This is an example of, you know, green products, and they are because they're green wash. There's many terms that we have to define the products that are not really compostable, not really biodegradable. And it shows you, it's kind of hard to read their names on there, but the one in the bottom left-hand corner, you know, that is a sea-friendly. That is a paper straw, which I know paper will get mad with, like, oh, it just disintegrates quickly. It's like, that's the point. It's meant to be a quick use, so you don't want to really, if you're going to save it all day long, use a reusable straw. Like, but if you look at the cups, the spoons, like, this is after 34 months, you know, they're still completely usable. They are there, and if they get into the ocean, they're animals or anything, that's food. So we got to look out for them, especially straws, forks, and knives. Recycling is a great program, but it's not the solution. It is something to help us until we also need to find more businesses to utilize our recycled materials is also key. So that was another reason of bringing our community together to utilize that. Because some restaurants, if you offer a mason jar and you have the same mason jar, and you come in and out of that mason jar, you can give them a 10% discount every purchase. Or if it's for your fleet farming or for your CSAs, because I love your CSA program so much. Thank you for all my fresh veggies. For products at farmers markets to avoid using paper bags. There's no plastic involved. And you can recycle those your paper bags after week, or you could use a reusable one to leave. But there's easy ways to help with recycling at home and not just recycling into the city or county. Ocean-friendly restaurants. Going plastic-free has never tasted better. Sounds great, right? I think it does. I'm like, yes, it really does sound better. Like, thank you. Again, we're just going over how the history of the OFR program, how we did. It started in 2013 in California and then launched nationally in 2018, where we had 52 chapters, 619 restaurants, and we saved 247,600 plastic-free meals a day, or they served, sorry, I did say served. But this is amazing because on the next, you'll see, it does look like mainly coastal states, but there are some states on the inner side of the country, but also around the Great Lakes. We have chapters too, because that's another body of water. It's not just the oceans, it's all the water that we're trying to preserve and conserve for future generations. We want it to be all sustainable. So this is actually a view of our website, and you can actually go through and see all these restaurants. So when you're traveling out of town, you're thinking of things to do, like I want to try to travel and be still like eco-friendly and reduce my carbon footprint. How can I volunteer where I'm going? Where are the good restaurants that I know they're participating in sustainable products and sustainable resources? So it's like, oh, that's great. You can go on Surfrider. I'm like, okay, you look at the restaurants. You're like, ooh, those fish tacos sound amazing. What? You're going to put some Kyoto cheese on it? Or what are we doing over here? That sounds delicious. Okay, so to participate, they do have to follow criteria. Just like everything, we have rules, and they're very wonderful basic rules. And of the 7 criteria, first one is only reusable foodware for on-site dining. No plastic materials, no single-use materials. You're using bamboo is a great alternative source, and it's sustainable. That's my favorite. I will mention it a few times. But there's great resources, and you can even work with your local businesses on finding local makers of these sustainable resources as well. Paper straws only upon request. Paper to natural, because there's so many, like the hay straws, there's so many different kinds, but the good ones only upon request though. It's not given to the table. My family can vouch for it. I'm that person when you go out to a restaurant and you're like, oh, she's gonna make a scene. I know it. Oh, don't put down the straw, don't put down the straw. That's me. I'm that person making a scene because one, you should have asked if I needed that straw. I understand your manager wants you to see you to put down things on the table to show you greeted the table. I understand that. Stop doing it. Stop. That is so much waste on this table and we just sat down. Like, why? What is this? And you just got to I think about those things. And, even my 8-year-old niece is like, oh, come on, just let me use the straw. No, I'm sorry. You got me at the dinner table. We're not doing it tonight. Nope. I said no. Just hold your grounds on those no's. You can do it. Push your restaurants to go and just be like, if you have a paper straw, I'd gladly give it to the kids. I'd gladly use it for anything, but you're still using a plastic one. I'm not gonna do it. And of course, if you're like me, I usually order at least 4 appetizers before even going to the main entree. You're gonna have takeout. So you can either be weird like me, you're going to have takeout. I bring takeout equipment with me because I'm just like, okay, I read the menu, I've memorized it before I even get to the restaurant. So it's like I come with knowing I get to take home stuff for tomorrow's lunch. So come with your own stuff or just, push your restaurants to use more sustainable products, like get rid of the plastic bags. If you're ordering out and they're delivering, it's mostly coming in plastic bags. It's like, okay, well, stop. Please stop using the plastic bags. Single-use utensils, straws, condiments, that's like your sugar packets and single-use ketchup and everything that has that wax coating that's on it. And it breaks down, but it's just really bad. So those, instead of just leaving them on the tables all the time, I know it's hard since COVID, but have communal self-serve if you're gonna use it. Or just have it behind the counter so it's not easily grabbed and going everywhere. It's something that you can control the hygiene of it too. So you can be like, oh, you need this? Okay, here you go. So only if it's asked first. No styrofoam. This would be nice if they transition in with like Wawa gas stations and stuff too. That's a lot of waste on beach cleanups is styrofoam. And it's not as bad as it used to be. I remember when I was a kid and just being like, seeing the big gulp 7-Eleven ones, like they were like, oh, but 7-Eleven's so good, I get it. But you bring your own containers now in your cars. We all have probably like 6 cup holders on average in a vehicle now. It's like they can hold some reusable containers for when you're traveling about in your car for water and other things, a chai tea latte. For the restaurants, no more, try to even eliminate even just using plastic, like plastic bottles. Like encourage them to use glass products made in glass, like kombucha is a good one, or the Mexican cola is delicious. And just pushing forward, using less of the plastic bottles being offered to your clients. Well, sorry, no plastic bottles. And also, if you have access to recycling in your system, that's great. I heard Osceola County lost their recycling program. I can't confirm that, but I did hear someone mention that. But not everywhere you go in the world is going to have a recycling program, so also think about that too. And if every county or city has ordinances, but these restaurants were asking you to work on a recycling program. Even it's working with your local community of like, hey, would you like all my aluminum cans or all my mason jars, or can we have a system of using a reusable recycled material for the community? I think the older generations can say they remember having milk delivered in glass cartons on a weekly basis instead of it all being in a plastic container in Publix. And so after the restaurants have all 7 of the first criteria, that was the mandatory. These next ones are just three ones to have, and you can like kind of work with it. Like in Orlando, we have composting, O-Town Compost. If you're using composting efforts in place, that's awesome. Good for you. We're going to reward you for that. Do you give customers discounts for using their own products? Or if you have your own mug created, do you give them a discount for using your own mug? So then come in and you don't have to have that purchase of a material at all. It's usually like 10% because you're cutting out the cost of what the cup you pay into, but 10% is a great discount. No single use of bioplastic containers, especially on takeouts. It's everywhere, and it's sad, but they want to make you think that it's a good thing to use. Oh, you're doing a bio-based. It's like, no, it's not. I'm sorry. Energy efficient efforts in place. Orlando's turning into be a very amazing, sustainable city. There are initiatives in place. If you need research, there's lots of resources around to help you too, in your small businesses and in your community. So there's definitely ways to lower your efficiency and lower your water pollution. And so this is, like Seminole County has a reclaimed water system. It's great. I wish it would be everywhere. Vegetarian and vegan options. We have lots of these options now available at restaurants, and it's wonderful because you can cater to all the foods. And especially when you have local produce coming from Fleet Farming, providing you with those fresh vegan meals. And it's like, oh, delicious. Yes, beets, please. Pickled? Just, okay. Prepackaged items not sold in plastic. So if you have like takeaway for lunches, it's not wrapped in plastic and it's not in plastic containers. Mason jars are a great example because you can actually really fill a lot in a mason jar for an item. And my favorite one to talk about is all seafood is best choice or good alternative as defined by Seafood Watch. Now, I'm going to go into this program and just do a little tangent off because it works closely with Surfrider. It's also another California-based nonprofit organization. They are from the Monterey Bay Aquarium. It started out as a special exhibit, and they had such good responses because people wanted to know, what should I be ordering at my restaurant? And what about like, is that tuna really the good tuna, or should I not like how that tuna is cooked? Where is that tuna farmed? Where's it coming from? There's a lot of questions that start coming up in society and people came together for that to learn more about ways to work and understand our fisheries and try to help make them sustainable. Because the key is if you speak up and choose environmentally sustainable seafood, it's the most powerful action you can take. And I truly believe that. You are the source for change in this world. It's within all of us. So as long as we speak up, the change can occur. We just got to speak up and keep going. Okay, this is an example of the consumer guides that have been created. They're little pamphlets that you can leave at restaurants that sell seafood, and they'll tell you, this one's for the Southeast, so this includes Florida. So it tells you your best choices of all of the seafood options and good alternative. These are the 2 categories you really want to look for. And I would love to go into this more detail, but I do have a time limit, so I'm going to just go straight to avoid. Okay, in avoid, we have a thing called the Key West pink shrimps. Anybody have Key West pink shrimps? It's okay, I will not be mad if you don't raise your hand. Okay, Key West pink shrimp fisheries is destroying the coral reefs in Florida Keys. It is sad. I actually worked for NOAA in the commercial fisheries industry for 4 years. I'm vouching for this. Key West pink shrimp, they do taste good, I will say that, but the practices the fishermen are utilizing need to change. They need to get further away from the dry tortugas because that is a beautiful marine sanctuary. And they are coming up straight to that line that is illegal for them to fish. They're going and they are depleting our coral reefs. Our coral reefs are already struggling with global warming. They're already trying to just fight coral bleaching. They're doing the best they can to survive. We don't need to make it worse. We're getting our bioplastics in there anyways. Like, we gotta really think about the coral reefs and with the plastics and with how our sustainable fisheries. It's not sustainable, that's why it's on the avoid list. But that's what's great about these checklists is because they tell you in very specific detail online, if you want to know about each fish and go into the details, you're like, yes, I want a marathon understanding all the seafood. I know you're over there, you're like Lee Perry over here. It's like, I want to learn more about abalone. I'm like, I do too. It's a sustainable fishery, just so you know, it's great. We don't have it here in the state of Florida, unfortunately, but sorry. But it goes in, our most common buys at restaurants are salmon and tuna. And again, I'm that weird person. I will call my restaurant beforehand if I've never been before. Who's your food distributor? Are you providing sustainable fisheries, or where's your tuna coming from? Where's it coming from? Like, do you know? And the problem with that answer is most of the time they don't know. Your restaurants do not educate you where you need to know. You need to know where your food is coming from down to the source. You need to know what port that boat came in on. It's tedious, but Seafood Watch does this for you. And it helps those who want to know more and to make sure that they're making the right choices, because you can easily get distracted with very good tasting food. There's also ways that Seafood Watch is working with the community to work with how the fishing standards are for not just for the fisheries, but also for aquaculture, which is something that is growing in our community. So what are incentives that these ocean-friendly restaurants get? Well, for one, we're gonna be like, hey, we love you, you're amazing. We're gonna put you all over our social media, we're gonna take lots of pictures, we're gonna have a photo sesh, it's gonna be great, and we're gonna tell everybody all about you and to come eat your food. And twice a year, Surfrider volunteers with the Surf Expo, and when the people from all over the world come into the Surf Expo, they know of Surfrider, and they use the websites to find out their restaurants around here. Right now in Orlando, we're slacking, but that's okay. COVID hit us hard. It's okay. But we're here and we're wanting to help make this change and push it and help push the Orlando Convention Center because it really needs to change its practices. More incentives is, with our following, we're always working with lots of other programs too that can help your business as well. And, also it's a tax contribution. You get a little tax write-off for your business. These are results from real restaurants, and I'm just gonna go over real basics with you. I am a shellfish lover, so my first favorite was the Little Creek Oysters restaurant. Cute couple. They realized after a hard day, they were spending more time sweeping up their floors from all of the waste from their customers. They're like, if we just eliminate what they're eating and using for this and to make it easier for us, we can spend more time with our families. We can spend more time with our kids. So that was great. And their annual cost savings for 1 year was $5,507. So if you're thinking, I'm going to switch over, it's going to cost me a lot of money, it's actually going to save you money, because it also saves you in your businesses get charged a waste fee for using disposals and garbage chutes and garbage cans. So it's like you're reducing waste, so you're reducing the use and the poundage. There's also ways to move a little past the, just not in our restaurants, but in our communities and events. Ocean-friendly events is great, where we can educate and promote everyone's efforts in the community to help be more sustainable and ocean-friendly. and we can get with our local Chamber of Commerce and all of the government and help push those plastic-free, please, go plastic-free bags. But also, music festival, concerts, farmers markets. I'm really gonna hit music festivals because it's a big waste. Single-use products, thousands of people are going there to see Sting and Paul McCartney. They were fun, it was great. A lot of waste. Soccer games at Orlando City, they're using reusable cups, but I haven't been personally, but we got to work on those events too. So we want water-free stations, and so you can bring in your own or use a recycled cup you can purchase through the night and use and take home, like a steel one, an aluminum one that is really, I love the steel one. Surfrider makes a lot of steel ones, and Four Oceans makes really cool steel ones too. All right, so just a really quick overview of the restaurant. So if you even just see a restaurant, you can think of like, oh, they're actually doing a few of these practices. That's great, recommend them. If they're not hitting all 7 right now, that's okay. We will get them there to that threshold. We will push them there, and not push them there, but we will work with them, because if they want it, they see that their customers want the sustainability change, they'll do it. They'll work for it. So they're doing, they could be doing recycling practices. They are selling all their bottles are not in plastic, they're in glass. You haven't seen any single use, or it's very limited. It's behind the counter. There's absolutely no styrofoam. You're like, yes, that's me. There's no plastic bags. You can see them using more of the paper bags. Straws available only upon request when it's be paper or natural source, and reusable foodware. So thank you for listening to me as I rant about plastics. I appreciate it. You're all amazing. I appreciate you all for coming here tonight too. You can join us here at gosurfrider.org for OFR. We're part of the Orlando chapter, and that's you can find us on Orlando social media. We're Orlando Surfrider on Facebook and Instagram. And thank you. Does anyone have any questions? If you have a question, if you wouldn't mind going to the microphone in the back. Sorry, Vern, but I love you. You're amazing.
Okay, so my question is, what do you suggest the solution is where you live in a city where they have a limited range of numbers marking your plastic materials that you can recycle? Like 1 through 5 is for Orlando. What do you suggest is the best solution for those plastic materials with numbers that are considered non-recyclable here?
That's a great question, because I think what they say, it's maybe 30% of what you actually put in your recycle bin actually is recyclable. They're putting it to the trash. You're like thinking you're doing the right thing. You think you're making the right efforts. Yes, and it's just like, but that is a great question. Like do you have a little answer for that one? I don't know.
That's okay. That's fine.
Yeah, that's my main, try not to buy it. Right. Go for more products that are made by local vendors like yourself over at Fleet Farming, Vern here runs the amazing Fleet Farming little booth at the farmer's market on Monday night. So we love her, thank you. I'm super excited for CSA season, super excited. Yeah, Sign up for your CSAs if you have not yet for ideas.
Please do.
Yeah.
Introduce yourself. Hi, I'm Lauren, I'm the chair of the Orlando chapter. The recycling, unfortunately, is very challenging. The infrastructure is not there, especially locally. So unfortunately, if you cannot use an alternative like reusable, it is best to throw it in the trash and not in the recycling. Because what happens very often is, like Nicole was saying, people put stuff in recycling like, oh, it's plastic, oh, it's cardboard. But if an X percentage of like your recycle bin is not recyclable, they just toss it. So unfortunately, if it's something that you're like, oh, it's not in that 1 through 5 or whatever, the sad fact is that it's probably best to throw it away, so you're not contaminating what actually is recyclable. That is one of the biggest problems, especially, at least locally. I can't speak for the whole country, but like I live in Orange County, and their machines are, the stuff goes in and gets sorted, but if there's like one plastic grocery bag, it clogs the machine, that whole thing gets dumped. People put pizza boxes in recycling. The grease makes it not recyclable. The whole thing could get dumped. So I think there's a lot more that needs to be done on a bigger scale, but individually, if you have to have that item, I would just unfortunately toss it so that you're not contaminating what could be recycled. Or reuse it. Yeah, that's of course. Like reuse it or avoid it if you can. Right. Yes.
Numbers from 1 to 5 really recycled? Because I heard actually only 1 and 2 are recycled.
Yes, it's actually very complicated. He said, are all containers marked like 1 through 5 actually recyclable? Not really. There's like different stages. I am by no means an expert, so please correct me if there's something that I say wrong. But there are definitely more products in the lower numbers, more parts of it are recyclable, but it's not necessarily all recyclable. And a lot of it, again, has to do with what kind of machine does your county have? What kind of plant do they have? So I think it varies a lot from state to state, county to county. Florida is definitely not on the strong end of recycling. So that's why we always suggest, as often as you can, get reusable or avoid it, because it's not a good solution, unfortunately.
Thank you. And then I just wanted to add that for the 7 mandatory criteria for the ocean-friendly restaurant program, the recycling is on that. But again, if you don't live in an area, like I think like Avalon Park doesn't have a recycling program, you can still be a part of the ocean-friendly restaurant program. You have to just recycle to the best of your ability for where you live.
Thank you. Appreciate you, ladies. Thank you so much. Any other questions? Nope.
I actually have 2. So the first one is about, so I worked for Commissioner Cole Wilson for 2 years here at the county level before getting into other things in politics. Woe is me. But one of my questions is, we had this constituent who basically rented out the bottom floor of a mixed use like office/restaurant. And it was a new building, so they had to get a new water utility line put in. And the landlord was like, well, then you need to pay for the hookup and the permitting fees, which came out to about $75,000. And as like a small business, right, basically they couldn't have any type of support, and they really wanted to get a dishwasher so that they didn't have to have like, you know, obviously disposable single-use plastic. And the county made it almost impossible for them to be able to get any type of support. Do you know of any federal grants or support for small businesses, or are there any regulations on these conglomerate like landlords that are withholding these entrepreneurs from being able to invest in their business? Because ultimately that utility line is helping their site gain in value, and they're putting it all on the weight of the tenant. So they can't be sustainable even though they wanted to. They wanted to make all these commitments.
So I think that is definitely a little bit above my expertise. I would say that we find the biggest push in those situations is going to have to be changes in legislation and policy. Again, this is all very county specific, state specific. Orlando itself is actually very sustainable. Florida as a state is horrible. So I think that the best advice, if it is any sort of business owner, small business owner, is to be involved in your local county meetings, pay attention to who's getting voted into office and what these policies are. There are very possibly like grant programs. I don't know that off the top of my head, but unfortunately, a lot of those things don't change until they're made to change. So it comes down to just being very involved, and politicians often change because that's what the constituents want. So making your voices heard. So I'm sorry I don't have more specific. But
no, that's like my whole vibe right now.
Yeah,
is please vote, dear God.
Yeah, it's really hard.
Please vote. My second question is about the technology needed in order to actually recycle the majority of plastics. So we had a site move into the district that I was overseeing called Pure Cycle. And turns out their system, which seems so innovative. I mean, I was like falling in love with their pitch when they were talking about moving into our community. But then when we actually started doing more research, we found that they actually emitted a lot of microplastics, and they used a lot of water to recycle, like an ungodly amount of water to recycle this plastic that couldn't even really be recycled, like as much as we had wanted to. They didn't streamline the process to make sure that they were as sustainable as possible. And they were being really sketchy about it too, which was like a red flag. But so they're in litigation right now. However, have you guys seen like any other innovation that strips like
the resin of plastic down to its purest form to make food grade plastic. Like, where are we with that technology right now?
Sorry, I know Sarah. I truthfully don't know of anything specific. I do think regionally, like I feel like the best bet is probably like California or somewhere that is very interested in that. A lot of what Surfrider does too is, like I was saying before, is working at the legislation level, because we have found that there is all this greenwashing, like you were saying, like, oh, this is marketed as environmentally friendly, breaking down, but then it's really shady and it's not doing what it says. But a lot of times, if you follow the trail, there's money going somewhere, so someone votes for this. A lot of times I think they're doing the right thing.
Right.
And so I don't know that.
Or
I do think there's better options.
That's as innovative as it can be given the technology that we have? It still is polluting, but it's polluting a fraction of the amount as what we just let these plastic bottles go into the landfill. You know, like, it's still innovative, but it's still harmful.
I feel, my personal opinion is that it exists. Like, just from the little that I do know, there are definitely very smart people coming up with these things. I think it's more the motivation. Money is typically the biggest motivator. So if certain, you know, maybe this company is recycling, but it's funded by somebody else that's benefiting somehow from this poor practice or this machine, usually when you find some sort of trail, it comes down to, like, there's probably a lot of people in there wanting to do the right thing, but it's usually bigger than that. So I don't truly know the answer. I do know that a lot of people say, well, we don't have to get rid of plastic, we just have to recycle, but, like, that is not a sustainable option. Like, yes, we should have the best recycling practices possible for what we can't avoid producing or using, but the end goal should be moving away from it altogether, because I don't know if there is a perfect system. Mm-hmm. I'm sorry I'm not more helpful.
No, that's great. Thank you.
I want to comment on follow-up to what Lee said. And if what you all are doing, great, fabulous, I support it to the hill. But understand, there's two things that drives business in this country. One is money. Be prepared to spend money. You ought to be. I'm not saying that negatively, but you've got to support this stuff by offering to spend a little bit more money. And the second thing is politics. Get involved with your politics. You don't have to do what Lee is doing, but at least know your candidates and ask them, what do you think about this? And there's one of the things that is the most important thing to a politician. That's getting reelected. Always work that angle. Okay.
I would like to real quick say on that note, I totally agree. And one thing that Surfrider does is we have advocacy days in both the state, local governments, well, not local, I guess state government. So for us, Tallahassee, and in Washington, D.C., where organizations from all over the state come together and they lobby specifically about plastic reduction, ocean protection. And then there's also a national day in Washington, D.C. as well, which comes up in, it's like February, March timeframe. So if that's something you're interested in, but you're intimidated by, please reach out to us. They break everything down for you. We have amazing staff that they research the candidates. You get broken up into small groups so that you're with your local representatives and basically teach you how to start these conversations, how to write a letter or make a phone call. That is definitely something that I knew nothing about before I joined this organization, and it's very eye-opening. So I 100% agree, and if it's something you're interested in, please reach out to us because we have a lot of resources that can help, because it is definitely intimidating.
One more thing on that note, I'm good. is, check your amendments when you're voting. So not only are you voting for a candidate, but they come out with all the amendments. You need to really read through all of them. So the last big election, one of the amendments that Surfrider was pushing is to stop offshore drilling. Because being in the state of Florida, we all know that when you have an oil spill, it impacts everything. But on the other side of offshore drilling, they put vaping in the workplace. So if you vape, then you automatically don't want offshore drilling. But it's the dumbest thing to put them together, but it's because that's what the money is. It's the same as raising the retirement age of judges versus sexual assault victims' rights. when you go to vote, there's some really good websites. Please do your research on amendments, because that makes a big impact as well, not only with our politicians, but also the rights, especially in the state of Florida. Offshore drilling, there's a big one. There's 13 leases that the administration just put out that we are fighting to not let happen. So that involves the state of Florida. There's 13 leases just in the state of Florida. And if anyone was around for the BP oil spill, we are still seeing effects 5 to 10 years later, all the way down from the lowest end of the food chain all the way up to the highest. And NOAA and Fish and Wildlife, they do studies, wild population studies, every single year on animals to see the effects, and they could see it 5 to 10 years later still from the BP oil spill.
Sometimes after the state general election voted against offshore drilling, this is still happening, so
It'll never stop. You've got to continually fight it. You lose it one time, they'll be back next year.
Awesome. No, wonderful.
And one last thing to say with tongue in cheek.
Mhm.
I like the use of the term greenwashing, but I'd like to suggest with tongue in cheek a more appropriate term, and that's eco-porn.
It's an interesting topic. Okay. Dawson, fleet farming manager over here.
I just have more of like a comment. So we like to focus on things like the Pacific Garbage Patch, for example, and we're like, look at all this plastic in the ocean. But I have looked into research, and most of this plastic did not come from our landfills. It actually came from people on the coast and their activities, their litter, that kind of stuff. So I really appreciate what you guys do, because you have to target those activities to really cut back on what is going into the ocean. So thank you guys.
Breakout session. Okay, thumbs ups. Okay, so now thank you everyone for talking and being expressive and talking about getting rid of all the plastics. I love you all. You're great. You're amazing. Right now we're going to do a little discussion at your tables on how to pressure businesses to stop using single-use plastics. I love it. You don't have to threaten them, but have some good talks. Like, remember, there's initiatives. Like, remind them, like, farmers markets, events. Do the right thing.
success, and that if you were caught with single-use plastic, you would get a fine for it. And so as a result, there has been wide success in that country regarding cutting back on single-use plastics. Also, just kind of talking about that same paper package, utilize it in our own country and community. Also, kind of a hard one, depending on how much you love your restaurant, would be boycotting the restaurant. You know, we also talked about leaving Google reviews, Yelp reviews on like, how much single-use plastic was there? Were there like eco-friendly options? And another thing was bring your own cutlery. Interesting concept one of my people at my table brought up was where they used to live, if you brought your own cutlery, then they would give you like 10% off of like your food, which is like a really great incentive. So we kind of really focused on how can we incentivize and make other single-use plastics more expensive than the alternative, and really using that to change the culture of the community and the country and the world.
Incredible. Thank you, Dawson. Yes, come on up here.
Okay, so we talked about, which is something I feel Orlando can totally do, a circular takeout program. So there are plenty of cities that already do this, and I feel like Orlando is a city, but small enough that this can totally be implemented where you order delivery, you order takeout, whether it's through the system or through your restaurant. When they drop it off, they would pick up the old one and reuse it. In that same sense, there are many coffee shops that do that too. They have cups for you, you drink your coffee, you go back, you drop off the old one, and you pick up a new one. So I think a circular, system like that would be huge. It totally gets away from even the biodegradable or like the bamboo single use. Another thing is really just educating these restaurants, because I think a lot of them don't know. They don't realize the impacts that these single-use plastics use, and don't know how other programs could be beneficial to them. So having these talks with them or having them come here to hear from their own communities why this is important, I think is big.
Also, if you're looking where to buy your sustainable, eco-friendly products, check out her business, OEco, waste-free products. Please go ask her afterwards. All right, anybody else? We have to wrap up in a couple minutes, but this is the most important part of the Hive. This is where we come up with our action items to create these solutions. So you guys want to come on up? Awesome.
So we've talked about, and we've kind of seen this firsthand, is trying to not overwhelm a restaurant if they're like not doing any sustainable practices. Because if you come in and you're like, you have to get rid of your to-go containers and your straws and your silverware, they're gonna be like, forget it, like that's not possible. So if it's just starting a conversation being like, hey, well, what if you just stop putting straws out automatically? One step is a lot more manageable, and people are probably a lot more willing to take that on. Actually, a former member of ours, now this was pre-COVID, so it may have changed, but she just talked to the Stubborn Mule restaurant downtown, and they used to preset all their tables with water with a straw in it. And she was like, hey, like, what if you just stop presetting with the straws? And they did it. Like I said, I don't know if they still do it, but they were so excited because it saved them money, which really talks to a lot of owners. And it's one little step that could open the door for bigger steps later. So, it doesn't have to be all or nothing. Like every little bit is going to make an impact.
Awesome. That's a really good point, is just asking questions. When businesses keep getting asked the same question again and again and again, like they're going to remember it and they're going to make a change. You don't have to harass anybody. You can just be like, hey, what if, or why don't you have this, that kind of thing. If you guys want to come on up and be our last presenters? Yeah, go for it.
So we had a few. We had The same one as you, Dawson, where we suggested boycotting restaurants, like a targeted withdrawal, basically, of patronage to encourage people. But like we said, harassment probably isn't, or like overwhelming a business probably isn't the best solution, because they tend to fall away from the goal or not realize the goal. They're just overwhelmed by, well, how can we get rid of this and then maintain like the structure of our business and, you know, our profits. But a targeted boycott that maybe targets one thing at a time is probably, you know, more manageable for them to not only start but then maintain long term, and then you have positive reception from patrons on that who are concerned about the environment, and it might even bring in more business. So talking to them about those alternatives actually being a point of increased, you know, commerce, like that's probably a great talking point to stress when you're discussing with these businesses. We also talked about using social media as a platform to, you know, either reach out and discuss, because we have so many points of communication now where we can directly get in contact with business pages like that, and talking to them that way can be, you know, really effective. And then partnering with certain, you know, social media pages to discuss practices or even expose practices sometimes if there's long-term, like really bad behavior kind of on the part of a business that is just either, especially if they have, you know, claimed to be committed to eco-friendly objectives and eliminating single-use plastics, but then continue to use those or lie about their practices, you know, getting on social media to boost what they're doing and the fact that they're lying to their consumers, you know, and taking away their business, especially if they're a larger, like corporately owned business. That might be a great way to take away and encourage them to make a switch for the sake of their business. Also, talking about businesses, we discussed how for some of these larger corporations, maybe, you know, threatening them with a loss of patronage is not enough, because that might be a small drop in the bucket from their perspective. And so instead of making threats, you know, instead partnering with small businesses in your region, in your locality, to discuss how they can make the switch, because they might be lacking the resources, since plastics are generally the most affordable way of packaging, of, you know, providing takeout options. So instead talking with them about how they can make that switch and moving more on the positive side rather than a negative takeaway side, and that might be more effective. Especially in your region, you know, keeping it small, community-based, and making a change in that, you know, in that locality, and then expanding outward from that. Yeah, that was about what we had.
Amazing. Yeah, this is really exciting, because I feel like we all have a lot of, you know, things on our to-do list now as far as changing our own sustainability and then bringing that to the restaurants as well. And just reminding them, like, hey, just put a sign out. You get 10% off if you bring your own cutlery, so that other people know about it. So I hope that we can all go out to restaurants this weekend and be friendly and be kind, but also kind of make this push and keep it fresh in your mind, because if we all do it, you know, there's going to be a lot of change. Also, my name is Kristen. I'm the branch manager at Ideas for Us, so I oversee a lot of the events here in Orlando, and we have a lot of really incredible events coming up this month, which I'm really excited to share with you. Tomorrow we have a pollinator garden installation and garden revamp at our Garden at Pathlight home, which is an affordable housing facility. A lot of people are coming out of houselessness, so this garden means a lot to those people, and they're really excited about it. It drives a lot of passion in that community, so it's a really amazing project. I really encourage you guys to come out. We're going to be redoing the beds with new veggie starts and also installing a native pollinator garden right next to this beautiful garden. Where this watermelon is, there's a lot of watermelon in there, and we're going to take it out, and because they harvested it, and now we're going to put some pollinators in there. Super cute. I know, I'm super excited. And then it's an affordable housing facility. A lot of the people are coming out of like homelessness or bad situations, and your rent depends on your situation, and they feed everyone one meal a day. So it's a really great program that you can volunteer for. Definitely recommend. On the 22nd, we have a Shoreline Restoration project at Overlook Park. This is a part of the Plant a Tree Day program with One Tree Planted. And we're really excited to be a part of this program, because this month alone, I guess September, we planted over 10,000 trees internationally. So shout out to our international branches. This brought us up to about 23,000 trees this year alone, and about a 50,000 tree mark as an organization, because we've been really ramping up. So I'm super excited about these numbers. I'm really proud of our international branches, because we'll do like 20, 50 trees at a time here because of rules and regulations, but they'll just go out and rogue plant 2,000 trees because it's allowed. So it's pretty amazing, but this is going to be a part of that program. So if you want to be a part of a global reforestation and restoration effort, come on out. And we have a harvest festival on the 5th, which I'm super excited about. Shout out Kelly for spearheading that. We are going to do it at Lake Lorna Dune Park. We're going to have a bunch of local vendors, sustainable vendors, music, games, crafts, family friendly. And if you want to volunteer, you can come talk to Kelly over there, because we need all hands on deck, but it's going to be a lot of fun. So please come out, bring your friends, bring your family. And if you have an organization that you would like to table on behalf of, just let us know. And during this Harvest Festival, we're doing a nutrition and herbal remedy workshop. So we're going to be talking about health, how to make it affordable, also how to kind of bring that into herbal remedies, and we're going to be making cute little vitamin capsules with loose leaf herbal medicine. So if you want to come out to any of this stuff and a lot of our other things, because we have a lot going on, please go ahead and use that QR code. You can also please sign in the back. And if you would like to sign up for our newsletter, I can send you once a month an email about all of our stuff going on, because we have so much. This is actually a very short list of events compared to what we normally do, because we're winding down the year, but next year it's going to be even better. So I'm really excited that you guys are all here and a part of this story. And thank you all so much for coming out. We have about a minute to kind of wrap up, but does anybody have any organizations that they want to shout out before we go? Because this is also an important part, is partnerships. So thank you, Surfrider Foundation. You guys coming out means a lot to us, helping us educate the community. So anybody? No? Okay. And thank you to our wonderful hosts. You guys are amazing. Shout out to them outside. So thank you guys. Follow them on social media. They got a lot of awesome events going on. But yeah, thank you guys so much for coming out. Please drive home safe. The place closes at 9, so you can network for a little bit. But yeah, thank you guys so much.